In a Manhattan courtroom today, a jury began hearing E. Jean Carroll, her allegation that former President Donald Trump raped her more than 2 decades ago in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room. This is a proceeding that seeks to apply the accountability of the hashtag #MeToo era to, obviously, Trump, the dominating political figure. The trial in federal district court in Manhattan is expected to last 1 to 2 weeks. It stems from a lawsuit, and it will take place amid a barrage of legal action aimed at the former president. Let's talk about this even further with Andrew Lieb, friend of the program, legal analyst, joining us now on the program. Andrew, good to see you. Okay, so yet another investigation surrounding the former president. But maybe if you could get our viewers up to speed. This is a civil rape trial, a lawsuit there, but is it also a defamation case? Are there two tracks happening at once here?
Yeah, this really is a defamation case, Andrew. It's about this rape that she alleged happened with Trump 30 years ago. But then she published a book in 2019, and Donald Trump said it was totally false. So when we think about rape, we think about, hey, it's got to be beyond a reasonable doubt. This is a criminal trial, but that's not what we're dealing with here. We have a civil case, and it's because Donald Trump said what she said was totally false, said that she's not his type, and that it's a total con job. So now she just has to prove that it was true and he defamed her. And that's what this case is about. And this jury just needs to find not beyond a reasonable doubt, more likely than not, which is a much lower standard. And that's why Trump is a little concerned today.
Okay, Andrew, you might have been following this, but this is really interesting, especially regarding who the jurors are. But apparently they're going to be anonymous. They're going to remain anonymous throughout the duration of the trial, I believe. How would that even work? Apparently, neither he nor lawyers nor Carroll and Trump would know their identities. Is that actually happening in this trial? And if so, how would that even happen?
Yeah, so this is a federal case. Let's start off with that. And it's in the Southern District of New York. So people are confusing this and thinking it's a state case. This is a federal case. So let's go there. And let's tell you how the jury works. You see, in a federal court, you have the judge being much more involved in jury selection and control of the jury than in a state court. In New York State Court, the attorneys are much more involved in the process. But when you have a high-profile case, usually reserved for maybe a mafia type of thing, we don't get the identities of the jurors involved, and we keep everything confidential to protect them. And as we know with the Trump movement, when you say something pro-Trump, you're hated by some and loved by others. And when you say something anti-Trump, you're hated by some and loved by others. So to protect this jury and its integrity, we're hearing that it's all going to be a confidential jury. And I think that makes the most sense for this federal judge to control the courtroom.
Yeah, apparently the jury would travel to a pickup point in the morning from which U.S. Marshals would then drive them to court, secretly leading them into the building through a garage. And while this happens with criminal cases, sometimes it's virtually unheard of with civil matters. That was what some of our other experts had been telling me, at least. Is this because, though, Andrew, that essentially we're dealing with a former president, or does that not have anything to do with it?
I don't think it's a former president in general, meaning okay. I don't know that all former presidents end up getting this confidential jury. I think, again, when I likened it to maybe a mafia trial or something like that, it's because of the danger. It's because of that. A lot of people are getting and that's not to say Trump is mafia, that's to say that he's a very polarizing figure. And that creates a lot of people on both sides to do erratic things that create safety concerns for the jury. And this is how the judge is going to reel in and protect everyone moving forward. So I think it's less about whether it's criminal or civil. I think it's less about whether it's a former president or anyone else, but purely about the safety of the jury. And I think it was a smart move by the judge today.
Yeah, and Andrew, it does seem like Trump is not going to be there during the duration of the trial. His lawyers will be representing him on his behalf. So that's also an interesting element in this as well.
It's interesting, and I think it's interesting that it's possible that it's going to be that way, but it's also possible that it's not. His own attorney kept saying to the judge, can we get instructions? Instructions mean, how would we tell the jury about this happening? And he wanted specific instructions a few weeks back to say, hey, we want to show that the president would like to have been there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm paraphrasing, but the judge denied it because his own attorney cannot confirm for certainty whether Trump is going to come and whether Trump is going to testify. We're thinking no, but that can change on a dime if it's in his best interest to show up. And even his own attorney doesn't get that call, it appears. It appears that Trump is going to play that card however he deems fit.
Okay, Andrew, also, though, how are you feeling about this case? Let's game out some of the scenarios. I mean, if Trump were convicted, he would have to pay some type of settlement, right, to E. Jean Carroll?
Well, if he loses the case, it's not a settlement, but a judgment he would get.
A judgment,
so the jury would award a certain amount of money, and according to the U.S. Code, there's statutory interest on that. And then you could domesticate the judgment, meaning you could bring it to different states like New York, and you can enforce it by garnishing wages or marshaling assets. But it's a judgment. But as I think you were indicating, most trials, civil trials, settle somewhere along the way. Okay. It could be not after opening statements, but maybe after the first witness. It could be after the plaintiff's rest. Along the way, we see most civil trials settle. So it could result in a settlement, but if they go to the end, like I said before, it's more likely than not, this jury will be issuing a judgment.
Okay. Andrew, why have you, though, regarding another Trump investigation, of course, the Fulton County, Georgia DA, Fani Willis, her investigation into 2020 election interference amongst the former president and some of his key allies way back when, after the 2020 election. Well, Fani Willis, I thought was interesting. She released a letter yesterday, essentially saying that she will announce this summer whether or not former President Trump and his allies will be charged, indicted, over crimes related to 2020 election interference. We know that special grand jury was convened. Some members spoke after it was dismissed. My question to you about all of this, though, Andrew, is if Fani Willis had the goods, why is she waiting? Why doesn't she just do this now?
That's the $10 million question. But just to be clear, she didn't release this letter to the public. She sent it to the law enforcement. And she was letting law enforcement know, just like when New York did it, how to protect the public. She said, hey, listen, we have this information that there might be significant public relations issues, and we needed heightened security. And I'm letting you know between July 11th and September 1st, I'm going to release a statement about indictments. But to be clear, she didn't use Trump's name in this. And what's more interesting, and I'll throw it to you on this one, is the motion that came out earlier this week that said, hey, we have been giving immunity offers. We've been giving immunity offers to a lot of these defendants. And there's an ethical issue because these attorneys, how could they have ethical righteousness? Because the fake electors have said, we didn't get these offers. And we need this attorney, this DeBrow, off the case. Maybe that's why Fani needs this delay.
Okay, are you getting, though, kind of deja vu? Remember, in the days ahead of the Trump indictment there in Lower Manhattan, we got word that Alvin Bragg and his office, they were meeting with the relevant, security officials, law enforcement ahead of an indictment. That's essentially what Fani Willis was doing with this letter. She was kind of alerting the Fulton County Sheriff's Office about potential heightened security. That was the two-word quote there, in the event that an indictment comes down. So should we read those tea leaves?
100%. And we should know that's not just Fulton County. She's telling the city of Atlanta. It went to multiple law enforcement agencies. And while we're reading tea leaves, I doubt someone in Trump's orbit would cause a major security issue. I think it's Trump himself. That's the tea leaf I'm reading. And I think the reason why we're delaying another few months right now is I think that if you tie those two things, that motion about getting the attorney off for ethical issues and this letter, I think they believe a lot of these people, these fake electors, are going to flip and they're going to take the immunity deals. And then we're going to have fireworks come July 11th to September 1st. And I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm foreseeing a Trump indictment in Georgia.
Okay, we do sometimes make predictions here on Live Now from Fox. That is a prediction right there. So you think the indictments in a lot of these cases that are swirling around the former president. It's not over yet. You think Georgia is a done deal?
I think that if you tie that letter that we just got with her making this motion together and saying, hey, listen, there's fake electors that say they didn't get immunity offers.
Right.
I'm saying that's a done deal. I've been wrong before in my life, but I think it's a pretty stacked odds gamble.
Okay, Andrew Lieb, we'll leave it at that. Always appreciate your legal insight into these major headlines, and we'll talk again.
Thank you so much.